Hello and welcome to another typical Boro podcast. As always, I'm your host, Steve Dixon. Can I thank you all for subscribing to our YouTube channel, rating and reviewing? Always appreciated. And remember, you can catch this podcast every Tuesday on the Red Radio 6 till 7. So, I have my usual duo, Mr. Graham Bandy and John Cutler with me. You all right, boys?
All good? Yeah. Morning.
Yeah. Well, since last week's podcast, it couldn't have went any worse. Two big games. The derby that's not a derby against Leeds, followed by Millwall at the Den. No points for the Borough. Where do we go from here? We're going to get into it today in today's podcast. Plenty to discuss, both on and off the pitch. But we'll start with Leeds. We'll start with you, Graham. Obviously, being from Harrogate, you know it's close to your heart. A lot of your friends are Leeds followers. On the night, Middlesbrough went down. On the night, Middlesbrough went down 1-0 to an early Dan James goal. There was one change, obviously, Vandenberg coming for Neto Borges. I thought it was always going to be a tight game. I seen you before the game, Graham, and I'm going to bring this up because I seen you with Harry, your son. And just before you left me to go up to your seat, I said to Harry, what's the score going to be? He said, Harry was excited about the Borough game. And he said, I think we're going to nick a Dicko 2-1. What do you think? And I said, I think we'll get a point, 1-1. And just before you left, I said, Graham, what do you think? And you sneaked up to me and you went, 1-0 Leeds, Dicko, 1-0 Leeds. And then ran up the stairs. And I was like, oh, what's he said that for? So got to my seat, sat down, done the pig bag. 2 minutes in, Dan James scores. Disastrous start. But I'm thinking in my mind, it's not going to be 1-0 anyway. There's going to be a lot of goals today. You ended up being absolutely spot on, Graham. Thoughts going into the game, reasons for thinking Leeds were going to win before the game. What was your thought process?
Well, first and foremost, I take no pleasure in getting the score right because, secretly at the back of my mind, I was hoping we could put on a real performance. We were on a decent run of form, but I did allude to the games that were forthcoming. I thought the Blackburn game would be trickier, but we overcame that one and did really well there. They surprised me in the way they played. So that gave us a bit of impetus for the Leeds game. And, we were full of optimism. I thought we were going to have a right good go at them, but 2 minutes into the game over really, in effect, because we just started slowly. I said that they would start like a train. They're a 20-minute team. They'll try and blow teams away. They did it to us at Ellen Road, and we never quite recovered. We had a little spell in the second half there where we wrestled a goal back. It was an own goal, I think. And in the Leeds game at the Riverside, we did something similar. We did kind of get back into the game. We didn't panic. We realised that we had, a good 90 minutes to get that goal back and hopefully get another one. But it wasn't to be. We sort of played into their hands a bit. Once they got that goal, they just sat in and then picked us off at will when they needed to, with the two flying wingers, Solomon and Dan James, who gave us a torrid time all night, really. But I did think we had the lion's share of the game in terms of possession, but didn't hurt them. We went side to side. We just couldn't find a way to penetrate. And that was the annoying thing and the sad thing about the game for me, that we did go toe-to-toe. We did match them in terms of being able to play and play through them, but we just couldn't find a way. And they've done that to a lot of teams most of the season, and it sort of went the way I thought it would go. But yeah, sickening really. And I thought that was the game where we desperately needed to pick something up in, because it put a lot of pressure on us to go to Millwall then and get a result. And as we found out yesterday, it was quite a similar game, really.
I thought Middlesbrough against Leeds, that early goal was a killer, because I just thought if we could keep ourselves in the game for the first 20 minutes and grow into the game, Middlesbrough had half a chance against Leeds to get something from the game. And I thought overall the performance was fairly encouraging in terms of the effort, the work rate was there. I know Leeds fans, if they're watching this, will be screaming, saying, but we had two perfectly good goals chalked off. Tanaka and Bamford both scored good goals. However, I did think Middlesbrough had good chances in the game and were wasteful. We weren't clinical enough with Bergzog and Finazaz and a few crosses that were flashing across the box. I don't think Leeds, if we're being honest, could have complained if Middlesbrough nicked an equaliser. Although I concur with you, Graham, I think the real quality on the night came from Leeds. thought Middlesbrough's performance levels were okay going in towards the Millwall game, and I thought if we can continue to play at that level against Millwall and for the rest of the season, it does give us an opportunity to make the playoffs. But I felt going into the Millwall game, the level dropped. I think that the whether it was because Leeds is a bit of a derby game and the intensity's there, but I felt the level of intensity and the quickness of Middlesbrough's play and passing against Leeds was far better than it was against Millwall.
Yeah, I think the atmosphere at the Riverside on that evening it felt like a Premier League game. It was a big fixture, and then you've gone from that and you've gone down to the Den, and it was a sunny, blustery afternoon, and the game never got going. It was drab. It was dreadful, really, in comparison to that hotbed of football that was at the Riverside. So very disappointing. So the contrast was quite stark, really.
Cuts, just a brief word on the Leeds game before we get into Millwall.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you have said there. I think it's always disappointing when you come away from a game and you've been beaten, but I think you could certainly take positives out of the Leeds performance. They're up there for a reason. Like you have said, they were really dangerous wide. But we created plenty of decent opportunities in that second half where we could have got a point. And like I say, although I was gutted to come away losing the game, still in my head I thought there's plenty of positives that you can take back in that dressing room. The lads put in a shift. Yeah, you couldn't really fault it, really.
I was more angry after that game with the chances we missed, because we did do ourselves a favour by getting staying in the game. We were chasing it to the last second, so we did get a goal, obviously, but it was chalked off for offside with Conway. So at that point, we looked quite dangerous, and I thought we were going to go on and get one, but it wasn't to be. And yeah, rightfully they got too chalked off, so it does sort of mask over the actual result a little bit.
I just think a little bit of composure at the end. The one with the Zaz, normally he's really good, but he just seemed to snatch at it. So, but yeah, he's had a good season, so I'm not going to criticise him. It just didn't fall for us on the night.
Bergsog flashed a couple wide as well, didn't they? Just like you said, John, composure. That's what let us down in that particular game.
We're putting some decent balls in the box as well again, weren't we?
Yeah.
Well, Illing Junior's had a really good spell of form, hasn't he? He's in good form. He's getting up and down, getting crosses in. And I just feel at the moment we're forward line, we're front four on clicking. They're not clinical enough. I think Azaz has gone off the boil again. I think Bergzog's gone off the boil. Maybe could do with a rest. We've got other options now with McGree being fit, Whittaker, Force. It might be time. We'll talk about that moving forward. It might be time for a bit of a shake-up in that front four at the moment, because I think a few players are playing week in, week out now, but not producing what we need. So we went into the Millwall game. We knew before kick-off, for me it was a must not lose. I don't think a draw would have been a disaster. A win would have been fantastic. But for me it was a must not lose, because your rivals at the moment. Bristol City never give up. They showed that with a last-minute goal. Coventry have done it, 8 times this season, I think, with last-minute goals. They never give up. They're always in games. We've got to keep up that type of pace to have any chance of the playoffs. So for me, it was a must not lose. Unfortunately, we did just that. We lost 1-0 through a Camille Negley 65th minute winner. There was one change to the Middlesbrough side. Cuts, Whittaker came in for Iheanacho before the game. I think that was a decision I certainly agreed with. What are your thoughts there, Cuts, on the lineup at Millwall?
Yeah, Michael came out today and had I think it was a bit of a pop at the fans for having to go to Iheanacho, and then he proceeds to take him out of the team. Well, he's taken him out of the team for a reason, so maybe we were right and he agreed with us. So that press conference for me was a bit of a non-starter and a waste of time.
Great point.
So yeah, I didn't mind the team with injuries we've got. I want to bring up a point for something he said at the end of the game, because for me we didn't start at all yesterday, and at the end of the game I had to switch his interview off when he started it with, "We controlled the first half and I thought we played really well." Now I don't know what game Michael was watching, but it wasn't the game I was watching. I don't know about you two lads, but I had to cut him off at that point, because not only did the performance get me fuming, that interview, if anything, annoyed me even more than the performance, because I don't know what he was watching, but it wasn't the same game I was watching.
I think by him saying we were playing well, does that refer to us having a lot of ball and doing absolutely nothing with it? Because that's the only thing I saw in that first half, and then the second half got progressively worse as they mixed it up a bit and changed it round. Got a bit of a kicking off the manager at half time. It must have happened because they came out resurgent. First 5-10 minutes, you could smell it. You could see the goal coming, couldn't you? And we never
Yeah.
sort of combated that.
Well, Graham, you've just made a point there that you could smell the goal coming.
Of course,
This
you
has
could
been
smell a goal coming against Boro.
this has been a critic of Michael Carrick on this podcast all season. We can smell the goal coming, we can smell the trouble coming, but Michael Carrick doesn't seem to be able to see that when he's on the touchline until it's too late. So we'll get into the moment of the game, which obviously was when Alex Neil, the manager, at half time brought on Stockton-born, I think he is, isn't he?
Yeah,
Langstaff on 46 minutes. He come on for Millwall, change up the front, change their dynamic up the front. More or less went with front 4-4-2 almost did Millwall,
they did,
and
yeah.
then he made 3 further subs on 58 minutes when he brought on ex-Boro player George Saville, the goal scorer Negley, and Aziz on the wing, who was decent for Millwall when he come on up and down on the line, caused with a few problems. So they had 4 changes within 58 minutes. The pressure was increasing. Middlesbrough were making some poor decisions in the game, giving away silly free kicks, which was encouraging Millwall to get balls in the box, which we were struggling with because we're lacking a little bit of height in there at the moment with injuries. And you could see Middlesbrough were starting to struggle. And we were discussing in group chats and stuff. Maybe it's time for a change. I was mentioning Riley McGree. Of course, Michael Carrick did eventually try to change it. You had Force and McGree warming up on the line, but again, for me, it's all a bit too late. After the Lord Mayor's show, Camille Negley puts the ball in the net. 65 minutes, give Millwall the 1-0 lead. 66 minutes, on comes Marcus Force and Riley McGree. Bandy, too late again.
Yeah, too late. But I going back to the starting lineup, I agree with John. The personnel was correct. He was right to drop Iheanacho because he's been stinking the place out for weeks now. Awful. But I still don't think that dynamic worked up front because you've got 3 players behind Conway. They're all out of position. None of them are playing in their favourable positions. Azaz performs when he's the 10. Whittaker performs when he's on the right, coming in on his left foot, because that's all he can do pretty much, really. And then Bergzorg's had his better games for us when he's on the left, coming in on his right foot. So that's how I would have set up. But it was just a mess. And it was a mess in the Leeds game with the same sort of system. Obviously, Iheanacho played that game, but it just didn't work. Conway just looks a forlorn figure. He spent most of the 90 minutes just running around with his arms in his hair. It just frustrated because he wasn't getting the ball. He was getting bullied. He got no help from his 10. So it didn't work. And Carrick persisted with that for far too long. And like you say, he brought the subs on, Force and McGree, far too late. He should have been so reactive to their subs, but he obviously leaves it. He's patient, he's methodical, he thinks, but he doesn't think fast enough on his feet. And that'll cost him a job somewhere down the line, I'm sure, if he doesn't learn fast. So yeah, poor. Didn't react quick enough to their demands from their manager second half. They ramped it up. They'd obviously, like I said, they'd had a kick in. They came out at a completely different side. And as soon as teams ramp up the tempo against us, we don't know how to handle it because we're so one-paced. And that's, like I said, the goal was always going to come. And we had, 65 minutes? So we had good 20, half an hour to chase it back, but we didn't really do anything. Force had a shot. That was it, really. As whistled over the bar, but it was poor, really. The reaction was garbage.
Cuts, just regarding the substitution, what Graham's mentioning there, just for fairness, last week on the podcast, we were very, we give Michael Carrick a lot of praise for his management against Oxford, where we thought the second half, whatever he said at half time, worked. We thought he got his substitutions against Oxford spot on, really good, full of praise to Michael Carrick. I think Bandy's right, Cuts. It was a complete role reversal against Millwall, wasn't it, with these substitutions?
I don't just think it's been Millwall. I think my biggest criticism, I can sum up in 3 words: reactive, not proactive. And we've seen it numerous times this season where he's only made changes once the goals went in. Why not do it the other way and try and influence the game yourself? It's not like we didn't have options on the bench. We haven't all season, but we had, like you said, we had Riley on the bench yesterday. We had Fort on the bench, so we had options. I can't understand why he leaves it so late, and it's always, or the bulk of the times, when the opposition score. Would I have Alex Neil here? Absolutely not. But 4 substitutions, he tried to change the game. He knew it was a game they needed to win, and for me, it was a game we needed to win.
They
And
just
it
seem
just
to
doesn't
want
happen.
it more. I thought
Doesn't
they
happen.
wanted it more.
Make the changes at 0-0. Try and win the game. It's my biggest criticism, and it's not just me. Talk to lots and lots of people, and they all agree with that. So, yeah, might get shot down for it, but it's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
I mean, let's be honest, Millwall weren't brilliant. They look a bang average team. They're strong. They've got a couple of big lads at the back. They like to mix it up a little bit. But you can see why the better teams in the division would sweep them aside, because they struggle against pace, they struggle against quick passing. They would have struggled against Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick 2 years ago. But now it's most like we've come down to their level. It's a side, through the recruitment, through the players we've let leave the football club, through the players we've brought the football club. I think Middlesbrough have become a poor imitation of Michael Carrick's Middlesbrough from 2 years ago. We like to try and play in a similar formation, but we haven't got the players to play that way now. We're lacking pace right through the side. We're quite slow. It's like we've been slowed down. When we're breaking, the pace isn't there to get in behind teams. We haven't got real pace out wide. We haven't got real pace up front. And I just feel we've become easy to play against. Teams know if they can stay strong, hit the back against Middlesbrough and dig in and bully we a little bit and ask questions of we're from set pieces and free kicks and corners and stuff like that, that Middlesbrough are going to cave in. And it was the same against Millwall. They just wanted it that little bit more, and we haven't got that little bit of quality that we've had in the past to win these games, whether it be through a Morgan Rogers, whether it be through a Latte Alat, whether it be through a Chuba Rakpom, just going through the players we've had in the past. I think a little bit of quality will win these games, but we haven't got that now.
We're missing Ben Doak massively. I mean, it's no surprise we went on that good run with him in the side. We tore into Norwich. I know the game was wrestled from us in crazy circumstances with joke goals conceded, but he was devastating in that game, and he was the outball every single match during that period. As soon as he was injured, you knew that was going to be season defining, and it was the same when Morris was injured start of the season. It's cost us badly, and we're now trying to play catch up, and it's all coming to an end now, I think, sadly. But I don't think we'll see him in a Boro shirt again. I think the season's done and dusted for him and for us.
I think Doak might have had a chance coming back if we made the playoffs, because it would have put him in the shop window in big games in the playoffs for Liverpool if they wanted to move him on. But I don't think Liverpool are going to risk sending Doak back to us to play in a couple of dead rubber games if we're not making the playoffs, because they won't want to risk him getting injured. They might want to move him on in the summer for 30, 40 million pounds, and they'll want him fit to move him on. So again, it's just a typical Boro moment where we possibly could get Ben Doak, we possibly could make the playoffs, and we're going to do neither by the looks of things. Just want to bring this stat in, lads, and I don't know if it's 100% correct, because I've been doing a few bits and pieces this morning to try and get statistics into the podcast a little bit. But I've just talked about the regression under Michael Carrick in what I was trying to mention before about the forward players not being what we had in terms of productivity and what they bring to the team. So I went back to the 22-23 side, and I've just picked out randomly the sort of 7 players that were playing up the front 4 positions for Middlesbrough in that season. So they were in 22-23. It was Marcus Force, Chuba Rakpom, Ramsey, Archer, Isaiah Jones, McGree, Crooks are the players I've picked from that squad based on the most games that they've played and stuff like that out the squad. So out of them 7 players in the forward areas, 241 games between them, they produced 71 goals between them and 28 assists. So you jump forward to 23-24, and I picked out Latte Alat, Morgan Rogers, Crooks, Isaiah Jones, Greenwood, McGree, and Josh Coburn. I didn't put Azaz in because he only played 20 games. I could have moved Azaz and Coburn around. They're very, very similar. So them 7 players, 221 games, 55 goals, 26 assists. So, appearances have gone down, whether that's through injury, because the injuries have kicked in that season. The goals have gone down. The assists have just gone down slightly. But again, it's a regression. Then you come into this season and you go 24-25. I've picked Conway, Izaz, Bergzog, Whittaker, Force, Lat, and Ben Doak. I haven't bothered with Iniacho because he hasn't played that many games. So I know the season isn't finished yet, so there'll be a few more games to be added. 198 games, 42 goals, 25 assists. So again, regression. The goals have went 71, 55, 42. The assists have went 28, 26, 25. The appearances have gone down as well. So to me, there's a clear Middlesbrough's under Michael Carrick season by season in the front areas of the pitch. What we're producing is getting worse year on year. Now, behind them, we've never had a brilliant defence. The midfield's more or less stayed the same, whether it be Hackney and Howson, whether it be Aidan Morris and Hackney. So that side of the team hasn't really changed that much. But where we've been good is in the forward areas. That's where we're potent. That's where we outscored teams. That's where we were direct, we're quick. We had pace. If you look at the players I mentioned in there, you can see that the difference in quality in what they've produced. And I worry for Middlesbrough at the moment, moving forward as a squad, because you look at the players I mentioned this season that have produced: Conway, Izaz, Bergzog, Whittaker, Force, Lat and Ben Doak. Well, Lat's gone now, so there's his goals gone and assists from that. Ben Doak's gone now, there's his goals and assists gone. So what we're left with is Force, Whittaker, Bergzog, Izaz, Conway, and you can add Riley McGreen to that, who's going to be probably leaving the football club in the summer. It's a big concern for me, big concern. What's your thoughts on those statistics?
First and foremost, they're great stats. You've done well there, Dicko, to pull them out the bag. That first season under Carrick, I think that was peak Carrick, where we just climbed that table at a rapid rate of knots. Archer, Ramsey, Akpom. That was the dynamic. It was pacey, it was aggressive. We got at teams, we got behind teams, we countered well. And in a nutshell, we've just not replaced the quality of them players. Like you say, we've gradually regressed. The pace is a massive worry because we do have technically good players now, but how many of them would you say are rapid? I mean, Conway's got a turn of pace. He can get in behind teams, but I think the supply line to him at the moment is all wrong. Obviously, because of Ben Doak being missing. That dynamic was working. They started to forge a partnership. So at the moment, we're just scratching around trying to find a formula. And in the previous occasions, we've had a formula and it's worked to a T. So he's got big problems in the summer. He's got big issues to address. He's got to get some more pace in the side and he's got to get some more quality. But you're right to point out that there has been a regression, yeah, so very good stats. Although not nice to read.
No. Cuts, do you have concerns with this Middlesbrough forward line moving forward?
For me, I still think we've got some quality players up there. I mean, you can go back to a couple of years when we had Archer, Ramsey, etc. They were obviously a different level, higher level than what we've got now. But it's not like we haven't tried to have a go. This summer, I would imagine the managers involved in which players come in paid rumoured £6 million for Whittaker, who was wanted by Burnley, who looked like they're going to win the league. Brought Bergzog in, who I think's had a decent season. Got Force there. We've got Riley McGree. We've got Tommy Conway, who I think we all agree has been a good signing. So I will go back to again that maybe the manager is not getting the best out of what he's got. Now, I know I said it last season and there was a big reaction on Twitter about what me and Dicko said. But I'll change it slightly and say that would any Boro fan have accepted this is not a criticism of Millwall, being level on points with Millwall with 4 points left to go, with the resources, the difference in resources of what's been pumped into the relative clubs. People talk about we can't get a manager to come in. No, they sacked their manager and replaced him. I think all this needs looking at as well. Maybe we have got the players there, and maybe it isn't. Maybe it's the manager who's not getting the best out of the players. Now, once they cross the white line, The players have got to take responsibility. They've got to put in the performances week in and week out, and we didn't see that yesterday. So that's not all on Michael. But ultimately, he's the head of the team, and to be level on points with Millwall, with the relative squads that they've both got, with 4 games to go, for me, is, and I will use the word same as last week, failure.
Yeah. Well, just to back up what you're saying, Cuts, regarding the manager, another criticism that's been labelled at Michael Carrick this season is we don't turn up for the big games, the games that matter against teams in and around when we need to pick up big 3 points against a rival. So against the top 11 teams in the division, in the championship, so far we've played 19 games against the top 11 and won 5.
Yeah.
So if you go through Leeds, lost. Burnley, drew twice. Sheffield United, won and lost. Sunderland, lost home and away. Bristol City, lost home and away. Coventry, lost at home. We beat West Brom home and away. We beat Millwall at home, lost away. We beat Blackburn away, lost at home. And we lost away to Watford and lost at home to Watford. So the teams in the top half of the division, it's a fair stat and a fair criticism to Michael Carrick, in my opinion, that when we play the teams in and around with 5 wins from 19 is far from good enough.
That to me suggests we're brittle. We've got a soft underbelly and we can't compete against teams who are physically and technically better than us. We've got to match them. That's why we're 8th, and it's not good enough. But that can only be arrested by bringing in better quality players who have the stomach for games of that magnitude, and that's what's got to happen in the summer. We're fine coasting around at Oxford and these sort of lesser places, like as though we sort of perceive them, but we've got to front up against bigger teams and prove that we deserve to be in this elite band of teams in this league. But at the moment we're not. We're falling short. Whether that's down to players not having the stomach for it, or whether that's manager making bad decisions, that's what's got to be found out in the summer when we do the post-mortem.
We've got a podcast question come in, Cuts. I'll give this to you. Just 2 seconds, Cuts, because this is for you. We've got a podcast question come in from Paul McLean on X, who said, "Morning, Dicko. Could you ask the question to you 2 guys on the podcast? After yesterday's Swansea repeat-like performance, do you honestly believe we will win our next 4 games on the bounce to have just the slightest chance of making the playoff spots?"
We're not. I'm forever optimist, mate. We're not out of it. I still think the squad's good enough, but we're making it hard for ourselves. I mean, we've got Plymouth who were fighting for their lives, picking up results, beat Sheffield United yesterday, and then we've got Sheffield Wednesday away, who haven't won a home game since before Christmas. So we all know what's going to happen there, don't we?
Yeah.
So can we still do it? Yes, we can. I still think we've got the players there to do it, but performances ultimately and results have got to be there. So it's going to be really tough now. I won't lie, I was dejected after yesterday. Right, I want to make a quick point. He's mentioned regression there. Now, good friend of mine, Jonathan, messaged me yesterday, and there's a certain amount of apathy around the club again. I think there's a split in the camp between fans. We discuss it nearly every week on here. And he came to the point of, it seems like the fans now are willing to accept 8th, 9th, 10th. So going forward and selling season tickets, how do you sell that? How do you sell being accepting 8th, 9th and 10th place? I to be honest, I can't disagree with him. It is like a certain amount of fans are quite happy just to be plodding on, not reaching the playoffs. We all want the same thing, but for me, it's just not. It's not good enough, is it? Ultimately, it's not.
I've discussed this, Cuts, with producer Sophie, and it's almost like Middlesbrough fans are divided down the middle now. And what I mean by that is, if you go about the last 30, 31, 32 years under Steve Gibson, if you're at a certain age, like of us 3, and you've seen the first 15, 16 years of Steve Gibson in charge, where we've had promotions, we've had League Cup finals, we've had FA Cup finals, we've won a trophy, we've been in Europe twice, we've been to Europa League final. and you've had these superstars over the years turning out at the Riverside, countless names which we'll not go through again. But if you're at a certain age where you're maybe 22, 23 years of age and you've been supporting the Boro, like my daughter, producer Sophie, Bandy, your son Harry, all you've seen for the last 15 years of Middlesbrough is, barring one season under Aito Karanka in the Premier League where we went down with a whimper, you've just seen Middlesbrough huffing and puffing around the Championship every year, not doing a great deal. And so I think them types of supporters, their ambition, their hopes for Middlesbrough aren't really on the same level as what people of our age are, because they've never seen Middlesbrough really have a sustained period of success in their lifetime. And it really, really upsets me, actually, because I know what Middlesbrough Football Club's potential is in terms of fan base, what we can do as a football club if we're getting to the top flight, because we've seen it. We've seen what Steve Gibson's capable of if we were to get back to the Premier League and maybe stay there for a year. We are a club capable of attracting top players. We've got great facilities in terms of the stadium and the training ground. It's all there for it. And it upsets me when you look at the Premier League and you see your Brentfords and your Crystal Palaces and your Brightons and all these teams that are class Middlesbrough as a bigger club then, staying in the Premier League and having success and bringing brilliant players to their football clubs, while we're messing about with what we've just been discussing against Millwall and Leeds. So it's a great point that you make, Cuts. But how do you get that side of the fan base to believe without producing a decent season?
To be fair, I don't think it's even. I don't see it as the younger fans. There's plenty of young fans that aren't happy with what's going on, and there's plenty of old fans on the flip side of it. Older fans, generations similar to ours, that seem to be okay with what's going on. I don't really think it's an age thing. It's a good point what you make that since 2016 or whatever it is now, we've not been in the Premier League. But I do think people are accepting something that, as a fan, I can't accept. I don't want to accept it.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
There's a lot of talk now about teams who are chasing promotion and will get promoted coming straight back down. We've seen it the last couple of seasons now, and the disparity between the leagues is frightening. I wonder whether that's putting Steve Gibson off at times, because if we did get promoted, obviously we'd get a few quid for getting up, but we'd also have to try and compete to stay up, and that would cost millions and millions, and I don't think we have that as a club. So fans are accepting because there's probably no way out. For me personally, at the moment I'm going out of duty rather than passion, because I don't particularly enjoy it, because I kind of know what the games are going to be like, because I don't think we've got the quality there, and I don't think the chairman is willing to invest heavily enough to get us out of this division. So a good season for me at the moment is pushing top two and making it hard for them teams who we're trying to chase. That's why my hopes at the start of the season were high. I did think we could push top two, but it just evaporated quite quickly, and it didn't take me too long to work out that the players don't have the stomach for it, and we don't have the level of investment or the quality. And if we do want to push on, we've got to try and make drastic changes again in the summer. Will Michael Carrick be given enough money? Will Michael Carrick even be here? We just don't know. There's more questions than answers at the moment, and the fans are a little bit disillusioned, including myself. But I kind of know what level we're at now. We seem to have just accepted our fate, and it's a bit agonising when you see teams like Palace, Brighton, Bournemouth. I mean, we finished level with Brighton, didn't we? But got promoted on goals to get promoted, and look how far they've moved on since we got relegated in that fateful season, which was tragic. The way we went down that season was desperate, and I don't think we've ever fully recovered from that. There's still a bit of a hangover for me because it was garbage. The only decent season we've had is when Carrick come in and we hit the ground running, and then we pushed on hard for them playoffs, and we failed to turn up in them again. 2 games against Coventry, our nemesis, and we go there the last game of the season. They could pick us off again. So, yeah, we've gone on one big vicious circle, and it's not great at the moment, but we've got to still support them. But like I say, I'm going out of duty rather than actual enjoyment.
That's a worrying statement, though, isn't it, for someone that's been going for so long?
Yeah, of
That
course.
you're going to games. That you're going to games. You're not really looking forward to it. You're not enjoying what you're watching. We've talked about regression in 3 years of a manager being in charge. It's not like he's been here for 6 months and we're getting rid of him. So if fans like you are thinking like that, how are you going to take your kids or whatever to games and want them to enjoy and want them to come back? It's a massive thing for me going forward. It really is.
When I tell my son Harry about some of the players we've had and the big games we've played in, I don't think he can believe it. It's like
No.
telling him I used to support another team or something. It's crazy, but that was us. That was our identity. We were a big fish at that point. But the level of investment now to actually compete is staggering. Steve Gibson's been asked to compete with states, never mind just rich, rich tycoons.
See, I'll take that. I'll take that argument for the Premier League. But I think we are competing financially in the Championship. Apart from maybe the teams that are coming down, but in the Championship we are competing. So to go what is going to be the 9th season now without Premier League football, something's not right somewhere. Whether it's managers or whether it's behind the scenes or the players, the scouting network, whatever, something is not working because we are competing financially in this division.
Cuts, you've stolen me thunder. That's going to be the next point. So brilliant for bringing that in, because that's what we're going to do. But just before I forget, just to mention the competition winners. Obviously, we had 2 pairs of tickets up for Norwich City, last home game of the season. And the 2 pairs of tickets have been given to the podcast courtesy of our brilliant sponsors, Midas Claddon. And the 2 winners are of X is at Davy Mac 45. He's won 2 tickets for Norwich, and at Scott Blair 19 off X as well. You've won 2 tickets for Norwich as well. So well done to Scott and well done to Davy. I hope there's something on the game for you against Norwich, but if not, you've got a free day out. So just to keep on that, what you've just said there, Cuts, regarding Middlesbrough competing financially in the Championship, I agree with you. If there's one thing that's went well for Middlesbrough over the last couple of seasons, it's been the fact that we've been able to get the wage bill down. It's the fact we've been able to bring players to the football club that we've been able to sell on for big profits, whether that be Tavernier, whether it be Jed Spence, whether it be Morgan Rogers, whether it be Lati Alat. We've brought a lot of money into the football club. And every season, what we spend is probably up the top 4 or 5 in the division now. We can't quite compete with the parachute payment teams from the Premier League. But other than that, Middlesbrough's net spend is generally right up there at the top of the division. So we are competing, like you say, in terms of off the field finances. One thing that I think would make Middlesbrough even better off the field and financially better again would be our young players coming through the academy. The academy at Middlesbrough was once our most precious thing. Was our most precious thing when we had Dave Parnaby and Ron Bone running the academy. The conveyor belt of players coming through back in the day, whether it be the Stuart Downings, the David Wheaters, the list is fantastic, as you know, Lee Cattermole, all these players used to come through. In Middlesbrough used to sell them on for big money. That, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to be happening anymore. It hasn't happened well for a while. We'll get the odd one now and again. Craig Little's now in charge of the academy. Steve Gibson's still big on the academy. He puts in every year £4 million to keep Middlesbrough's academy Class 1 academy, which is there's only 24 teams in the country have a Class 1 academy, and we're good enough and proud enough to be able to continue to do that. He puts in £4 million a year. I think he gets £1 million grant towards that as well for doing it. But I was looking since Michael Carrick has took charge of Middlesbrough, and if I've missed anybody out here, apologies, but I don't think I have. Since Michael Carrick's took charge of Middlesbrough in October 2022, the players that have come through under Michael Carrick is Lowe McCabe, who's played 6 games. We've had Sonny Finch, who's played 5. George McCormack has played 3. Sol Bryn, 8 games. AJ Matthews, 2 games. Finn Cartwright has played once. James Wilson played once. That's it.
It's not enough, is it?
That's the games, and that's the players that have come through under Michael Carrick. I mean, I'm not counting like say Hayden Hackney he was a player before Michael Carrick took over and played games before Michael Carrick. Since Michael Carrick come over, you're talking there 20 odd appearances or something like that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 young players, 20 odd, 30 odd games between them. None of those players, other than maybe Law McCabe, you would imagine have got a big future in terms of next season for Middlesbrough through their development. I'm not aware that we've got anybody breaking through the reserves at the moment that's going to break on the scene next season and be another Stuart Downing. What's going wrong, do you think, with Middlesbrough's production line? Is it the coaching? Is it the manager not giving people a chance? There's got to be something in it, because if we're paying that much money to have the best coaches and the best academy to compete with the best teams in the country, why aren't we bringing players through like other clubs? I'll start with you, Cuts.
It's a good question, and it's one that I can't answer. To be honest, I have no idea why it's not happening. I think, was it last home game of last season? I think we played Watford, and Law McCabe played centre midfield, and I thought he looked a real talent. I know it was a bit of a dead rubber, but he handled himself really well, and it was a player that I thought we'd see a lot more of. And you lads will probably, I can't remember the name of the lad who was highly rated as well here, that went to Millwall and has been on their bench quite a lot this season. Callum
He was on the bench
Kavanagh.
yesterday. Funny enough, we sold him to Millwall, didn't we? He was on the bench yesterday for them. I shall find his name.
There's also Callum Kavanagh as well, who scored a hat-trick yesterday for Bradford.
That was AJ Matthews, who I mentioned.
Matthews.
He played twice for Middlesbrough under Carrick, but we've sold him to Millwall now. He's gone. He was on the bench yesterday. Yeah.
I was actually sad to see Kavanagh go. I thought he should have been given a fair chance and a fair run in the team, just to see if he is at our level. I mean, he's on a good run of form at the moment. Scored a hat trick the weekend in a 5-4 defeat, and he's sort of integral at the moment to why they're in the top two and pushing for promotion. So I thought he could have been given more of an opportunity, but I think there's a bit of a crossover between the recruitment model as well. There's this sort of quick fix mentality. We need to get players in on loan. There's an obsession with loan players at the moment, and no real attempt to bring youth players through. Like you mentioned, Law McCabe, I thought he should be 20 appearances by now from when he first made his debut, I think. But he seems to be sort of cast aside, and he doesn't really trust the younger players. He's obviously opting more for experience, which is fine to get you through these games, because it's an unforgiving league, and to throw a young kid in is risky, but sometimes you've got to take risks to get your rewards. I remember Brian Robson did it was it Lenny or Brian who brought Jimmy Pollock through? Just chucked him in there, and he was fantastic. He was an ever-present every week for 3 or 4 years. He was great. Under Lenny, yeah. And then Robson took him under his wing, and because he saw similarities in the way he was aggressive as a player, and he was great for us. But yeah, I mean, Hackney's come through. He's done fantastic. He's a Rolls Royce of a player, though. He'll go on to achieve far bigger things than he will at Boro with better clubs. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. But it's disappointing. I think since Parnaby has left the youth setup, it's gradually gone backwards. I don't want to dig Craig Liddle out, because I'm sure he does a great job, but I'm not so sure he's on that same level as Parnaby, because when he was here working closely with Steve McLaren, who was keen to pitch in young players, it worked a treat. McLaren was working under Ferguson when he brought young players through. And if we go back to the game at Fulham, final game of the season, I think it was the whole team which finished the game, the 11, were all within a 30-mile radius of Teesside, which is superb. So it would be nice to see something similar, albeit not them numbers, because I don't think we're capable of achieving them. But we do need to push the academy more. And like Dicko said, there's a lot of money going into it, so we've got to try and get some reward from it.
Well, Craig, you mentioned Craig Liddle. He was a player himself that came through, I think, our youth academies and got games in the Premier League now.
Did, yeah.
Now,
came in as right back,
to back Craig up a little bit here, maybe he is saying to Michael Carrick, some of these players would massively benefit from a game or two in the Championship. I think they're ready. So we're not privy to them conversations in the background. So I just want to stick up. I don't know if it's fact. I want to stick up for him a little bit there. Maybe he is saying to Michael, throw some of these in. Like I say, I was impressed with McCabe. I think everyone was. They're just not getting the chances. You mentioned Jamie Pollock there, similar era. Alan Moore was another one that came from nowhere, started the game, and then a couple of goals at Barnsley. He was tipped as the next Ryan Giggs. Now, he had a half-decent career for us, decent player. If you don't put them in, you're not going to know if they're good enough.
Is it a case though that it's just easier now to go with tried and tested, like Michael Carrick? He's stuck up in Iniacho this season. He's a great pro. He's great around the dressing room. But is he actually any better on the pitch than throwing a young player in who's got maybe a bit more pace? He's got something to prove. He's got a point to prove. He's got that excitement of getting his chance at Middlesbrough Football Club. Would them players not produce more on the pitch than in Iniacho? Is it a case that we've moved the model now from developing young players to buying young players, like we brought Harley Hunt from Swindon for £1.5 million or whatever it was, to buy him from Swindon at 17 years of age? We're buying ready-made players, even at 17, 18 now from Swindon, rather than actually give a Middlesbrough player who's 17, 18 his chance. Because if you're in the academy and you're a centre-back at Middlesbrough wanting to produce, and you see Middlesbrough buying a centre-back from Swindon for £1.5 million, that must be demoralising, mustn't it?
Well, first thing you'd want to do is move. Yeah, of course, because you're not going to get a sniff. So it is. It's sad, really, because that's generally been our model. It's what we've grown up to appreciate, and it does seem to be going back over.
Again, just a quick one though. I don't think they have to go. It doesn't have to be one or the other. If we're picking up like Harley Hunt from Swindon, who's highly touted, great. Bring him in as well to boost what you've already got. I'm glad that we're scouting some of the lower divisions and bringing in players. I agree with you with putting young players in, but they don't have to go. They don't have to offset against each other. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I'm quite happy to bring players in from other clubs, young kids with high recommendations, and get them in here. But I agree with you, lads, and I think, to be fair, the club would get a little bit more leeway from fans if results weren't going as well as they possibly should be. If we could see that we were building for the future with possibly some young kids and giving them a go to see whether they've got a future here next season, or whether we loan them out to build them up a little bit. Because let's not forget, they're adults at 18, 19-year-old. But I'll take Callum Kavanagh, for example. When he was here, he's still got a lot of growth to go as a man, build himself up, training, weights, etc., etc. So you're not seeing the player that he could possibly become in a year or two down the line once he becomes physically stronger for the Championship. So maybe we're writing players off a little bit too early and getting them away. Let's face it, he went to Bradford. It'll be peanuts for a club like us. So for the sake of what wages he would have been on to keep him for a year, to see what he builds like muscle-wise, etc., and see what we've actually got on our hands, maybe we're just getting rid of some of these players too early.
Can I just make a point me 2 pence worth regarding Callum Kavanagh? My opinion only. I think the problem with Callum Kavanagh is the same with Josh Coburn, and the problem's called Michael Carrick. And what I mean by that is he likes to play a certain way. He's a stubborn manager. He likes a 4-2-3-1, and he likes his centre forward or his forward players to play in a certain fashion. And I don't think Callum Kavanagh, who to me reminded me a little bit of a young Bernie Slavin, where he wasn't particularly quick, he wasn't particularly skillful, he was just a 6-yard box finisher, sniffer. He'll put the ball in the net more times than he won't if he gets the chance. And like you say, Cuts needed to be stronger, needed to build himself up to be able to get his backside into the centre half and hold challenges off at the top level. Josh Coburn is the old-fashioned 6'3" target man. He's a great finisher, but he's not one that's going to really run the channels. He's not really one that's going to get in behind. He's a predator, but he's good at holding the ball up. He's good in the air. He's got different attributes, but not the attributes that Michael Carrick wants. Michael Carrick's forwards don't have the attributes, should I say, if Callum Kavanagh, Josh Coburn don't fit the bill for Michael Carrick. And I think that's the reason they've been moved on. It's not because they won't go to another club and produce, because like Kavanagh's producing with 9 goals this season at Bradford, and Josh Coburn's producing at Millwall with 5 goals so far. I just don't think Michael Carrick sees them producing in the Middlesbrough team the way he wants to play.
I disagree regarding Kavanagh. I think he would suit the way we play in terms of playing on the last man, on the shoulder, spinning and getting away and taking.
Is he quick enough?
Yeah, I think he's quick enough. Yeah, a little fox in the box. I do. I think he's similar in stature and movement and finishing ability to Conway. I think he's that sort of player. I think with Coburn, you've got something completely different. It's chalk and cheese. For me, he's a plan B striker when it isn't going well. You just got to get the ball into the box as quick as you can from any angle to hope he gets on the end of something. But his hold-up play is significantly better. He's a good player as Josh. Now, again, I was sad when he went because that completely took away another option for Carrick, and he does seem hell-bent on playing one single way, and that's one of the most infuriating things about him as a manager. He's not prepared to look at other options to make him an all-round better manager.
So you mentioned the word options there, Graham.
Yeah.
So let's look at our options that we've got for next season at the moment in terms of the Middlesbrough squad, because I think where Middlesbrough's recruitment team has tried to do and build over a number of windows to get Middlesbrough into a situation where when it comes to the summer, we should only be bringing in 2 or 3 players to really improve the starting 11. Bring in 2 or 3 players for big money. We're going to make a big difference to the starting 11 and project this really excellent Middlesbrough squad that's been assembled over 4 or 5 windows by Kieran Scott to get us to the Premier League. When you look at what we've got now in terms of options, I think it's gone completely wrong for Kieran Scott and completely wrong for Middlesbrough Football Club. So this is what we're going. This is what we've got at the club now. So Mark Travers, goalkeeper, he's a lone player, gone in the summer. Can we get him back? Who knows? But he's doing very well, and he's away. Anthony Dykes-Steele, right back, out of contract in the summer. Don't think Michael Carrick's a huge fan. He's doing a great job at the moment. I'm not so sure Anthony Dykes-Steele will be here next season. I wouldn't mind him as a squad player, but I don't think he could be here next season. Johnny Howson, 37-year-old next season, out of contract. Are we going to keep Johnny Howson at 37? Rav Vandenberg, touted by other clubs. Illing Jr., left back, on loan, doing well, under 21 international for England, gone. Hayden Hackney, with all the will in the world, if Middlesbrough don't get promoted this season, in my opinion, Hayden Hackney, gone. Premier League or abroad. There's already been 2 bids from the team in Portugal, hasn't it? Aidan Morris, we've just signed Whittaker, who hasn't particularly done anything yet. 12 games, no goals, 1 assist. Bergzog, in and out the team. Pinazaz, interest from other clubs. Will he be here next season? Hopefully, maybe not. Tommy Conway, Iniacho, loan, terrible, gone. Ryan Giles, loan, terrible, gone. Luke Ayling, 34 in August, legs have gone. Darragh Lenihan, Alex Bangura, made a plaster scene, gone. Dan Barlassa, wasted time, gone. Riley McGree, possibly to be sold. He's more in Australia on the beach with his kangaroos and years on Teesside, probably gone. Senny Dieng, Boro Pans, probably not going to be here, gone. That leaves her with Borges, Fry, Edmondson, Force, Glover, McCabe, Sol Bryn.
Yeah, that's a 15th place team.
That sounds like a big job in the summer for Middlesbrough Football Club to me.
Huge. You need a shift in mentality, a shift in strength and solidity, and a shift in investment to propel us up the league, to make us sustainable and to be able to compete. It's a massive, massive task for Carrick. Huge.
I think I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'm going to add another player to that, a player who I actually quite like. I love his work rate, but Marcus Force will want to play more games, and copy off you, gone.
Wouldn't be surprised, Guts. Yeah.
There's quite a few I'd comfortably chase, but it's also been able to move them on. It's tricky. Not everybody wants our players. There's maybe a few that will go and that can be cherry picked by far better teams than us, namely Hayden Hackney. But we're not going to be left with much. We're not.
No.
And sadly,
the ones that we're probably going to be left with, let's be honest, aren't pulling up any trees either. The ones that we're going to be left with are the ones that either we can't get rid of, or nobody wants. It's
I'd be happy to see the whole defence shipped out. I'm trying to think of a spine now. I'd love us to sign Travers. That would be my main objective in the summer. Number one, go to Bournemouth and say, look, how much can we have him for? And I'm sure he'd like to come and play. He seems to be a good guy around the camp. Players are responding to him, and he's a very, very reputable keeper. He's been excellent. So I'd have him as me top of the spine, and then you're going through defensively. You think, who's your centre half? We can't rely on Johnny Howson again, can we? Because he's arguably our best centre half and one of our best midfielders. You'd have Aidan Morris in the centre there, because I do think Hackney will probably go. So you've lost him, and then you have to put Azaz in as the 10. His numbers this season will stack up. When it's all done and dusted, you'll reflect and you'll think he's had half a decent season, even if at times he looks so weak on the ball. It's quite painful to watch. But he's a good player. He's a good link player. I think if you get him firing behind a striker, which will probably be Conway, he deserves a full season, because I think he showed a lot of promise. His numbers stack up. He's a decent striker. And then you build around that. But when you're building around that, it changes every week. So Carrick's got to find that formula. He's got to get some wingers right and left who've got pace, who've got drive, who can get the ball into the box to feed Conway, because they're not playing to his strengths at the moment, and that's quite sad to see, because there's a lot more goals to come from Conway. I think he's a very good player. Defensively, it's a mess. We've got to basically start again, in my opinion. I don't trust either full back. Like you say, Dijksteel again, let the cross come in yesterday at Van der Berg. Pitiful clearance, straight to their guy. Bottom corner, goal, 1-0, game done. So we've got to be ruthless, I think, and basically look at the amount of shambolic goals we have conceded this season. In how many defensive setups have we played? I wouldn't like to think. We've never had a settled back four all season. The only time it's looked good is when it's been makeshift, when we've had Howson in there with that vital experience and know-how, and we've had Borges in there who's chucking his body on the line because he desperately wants to play for the club. I would still keep Borges here if we can, because he's showed a bit of spirit and a bit of fight, where others, I think they're just going through the motions. Van der Berg, Fry's in and out. I know Fry's, how long's Fry been here now? I don't think he's ever going to get a promotion with us.
10 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've got to look for better. We've conceded so many bad goals. The left back position is Illing Jr., who showed a lot of promise. Probably one of our better players yesterday. Got forward well first half, but there was nobody in the box to finish it.
It'd be great to keep Illing Jr. next season on loan.
Yeah, it would.
But he's doing that well. There's obviously going to be other clubs looking at him. And that's the problem Middlesbrough have got. If we don't make the playoffs this season,
I saw real quality in him in the Oxford game. I thought, oh wow, we've actually got a player here. He was great. That first time cross for Ian Hatcho, believe it or not. Dear me. But he's got to be the first out. We've just forget that we've even had him. I mean, he's just a bad penny for me. It's just terrible. So move him on as quick as we can. And try and get some bodies in. But we've got to hit next season with pace right from the start, literally.
Before next season, though, Graham, we've still got 4 games to go. We've still got the Easter period of Plymouth on the Good Friday, Sheffield Wednesday on the Bank Holiday Monday. It's got to be 6 points just to keep in with a sniff, hasn't it, Cuts? It's got to be 6.
It's got to be 6. 100% it's got to be 6. If we're lucky enough to still be in around it, it's going to be a cup final against Coventry on the last day of the season by the look of it anyway. That's if we're still in around it, but we need a minimum 6 points from the next 2 games.
I'll be surprised if we get another win this season. There you go.
There we go.
That's a nice way to finish the podcast. Enjoy your tickets. You won off the podcast, by the way, guys.
Can't wait for Plymouth on Friday. It's done, guys. It's done.
If you weren't depressed enough, listen to the podcast.
That's Bandy's my opinion. I just think once a team has peaked, there's no recovery. I think we're long gone now, and hopefully we're starting to make moves into next season.
I'm slightly more optimistic.
Shoot me down if
I'm slightly more optimistic. I do think we'll do fairly well against Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday and possibly Norwich. However, I do think that result against Millwall has killed it, and we're probably just going to miss out now. But we will end on a positive, because the Soccer Sixes was last week, the last one, and we put it out there who was going to win between Simon Blower and Sarah Holloway. And Sarah has won the Soccer Sixes with a team of Stephen Pears, Tony Mowbray, Gareth Southgate, Grant Ledbetter, Juninho and Bernie Slavin. So she's the first winner of the Soccer Sixes, and we'll send something out to Sarah for that. So well done, Sarah.
Well done.
Yeah, she's doing well. Right, guys, that's it for another week. Thanks for coming on. Brilliant discussion with you. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Good. Yeah, of course. We always do. That's why we're here.
Great. Right, okay. Remember, Boro fans, don't say typical Boro. Watch it, listen to it, and we'll be back again, hopefully, with some more points in the bag next week. Up with the Boro.
Up the Boro.